Good afternoon. My name is
Jennifer Aguinaldo.
I am MEED's Energy and Technology Editor. Thank you for joining this panel this afternoon that will look into the renewable energy projects across the region. We will be joined by two distinct panelists, very distinguished panelists. But before I do that, I'd like to share a few snippets in terms of the renewable energy landscape across the region. So there are about 11 to 12 gigawatt of installed capacity of solar and wind and CSP projects across the region. Around 11 or 12 gigawatt are currently under construction, and the long-term goal is to be able to build around 98 to 100 gigawatt of renewable energy capacity across the region by 2030 or 2035. Over the past few years, we've seen some of the largest and cheapest solar PV projects being implemented in the GCC in particular, with each new project either larger or cheaper than the previous one. This panel will look at the key trends, whether technical, regulatory, or project finance wise, that would affect projects that are under operation, assets that are under operation or are currently being procured. Let me now introduce our panelists. I'll start with Engineer Ahmad Alazemi. He's the project specialist, private sector projects department at the Ministry of Electricity and Water in Kuwait. Welcome, Engineer Ahmed. Our other panelist is Mohamed Nassef. He is the Senior Business Development Manager with Aquapower based in the UAE. Welcome you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I'll now give the floor to Engineer Al-Azami, who will give us a few words in terms of what Kuwait is up to in terms of its renewable energy projects. Thank you, Engineer Al-Azami.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. And thank you all for this beautiful coordination and having me with you all today. Engineer Ahmad Al-Azmi. I'm a project specialist. I will give you just a quick, everyone, I will give you just a quick overview about renewables in Kuwait. The renewable idea started on December 2012 on climate change conference in Doha, Qatar, when late Emir Sabah Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah declared our vision to cover 15% of Kuwait's peak load from renewable energy by 2030. Next slide, please. So we started with some renewable energy policies, starting from Decree 126/2018, that we enforced all the new government buildings to install at least 10% renewables on their buildings, like PV rooftop, from their peak consumption. And number two, we last year we have the ministerial decree 362/2020 to start our program, incentives program, for the residential sector to install PV rooftop. Moving to our biggest renewable energy project, Shigaya Park, and that was a master plan and initiative by KISR, Kuwait Institute for Scientific and Research. This park, it's around 85 kilometer square area. It consists of 3 phases. Phase 1, it's already done, fully commercial operated in December 2018. Shigaya 1, 70 megawatt, 10 PV, 10 wind, and 50 CSP. Shigaya 2 plus 3, as you can see on the slide right now, it was separated at Dibdiba phase 2. I believe most of you have heard about it. It was transferred last year, July 2020, by Council of Ministers from oil sector to CAB and MEEW, Kuwait Authority for Partnership Projects, and Ministry of Electricity and Water and Renewable Energy. So when it moved and transferred to this governmental institutions, we merged. We were working on phase 3, Shigaya phase 3, and we merged those two projects together under one transaction advisor. And we will talk in more details about it later. And the last project that we have on the study phase right now, it's called Al Abdaliya. I believe some of you have heard about it. It could be up to 150 megawatt. Shigaya, both of them, will start from 3,500 megawatt. It can exceed 4,000. It depends on the design from the transaction advisor and the study. So total installed capacity could exceed 4,000 megawatt as well. Next slide, please. This is so far about a quick overview about renewables in Kuwait. This is my contact. You can see even the social media, the ministry's official account. I have my own account, LinkedIn, contact anything. If you have any question, please feel free to ask. I'll be very happy to answer questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ahmed. Let me now bring into the conversation Mohamed Nassef from Aquapower for a few words.
So thank you very much for me and for you, Jennifer, for hosting this panel and coordinating it. Thank you for all the audience for having us today. So I'm Mohamed Nassef. I'm a Senior Business Development Manager in Aquapower. So mainly looking after renewable energy project with focus on solar PV and wind in the Middle East and Southeast Asia. So this is mainly the area I'm focused in. So let me start by putting some lights on the global renewable energy growth over the past period. So in 2020, although of the pandemic, the renewable energy has reached a new target. So it reached almost around 29% of the global electricity mix, and this is a new record-breaking number. And this happened during the pandemic. So this is a very big achievement for the renewable energy. And out of it, if we are looking at the solar PV, so solar PV in the last 6 years, it has grown from, in 2015, it was only 200 gigawatt across the world. And then in 2020, we are seeing it almost at 600 gigawatt. So it's tripled in 5 years, which is very interesting. And it's expected even to go up to 1,600 gigawatt by 2025. So it's still growing, and this thanks to the falling costs, regardless of the intermediate spike we have now due to the COVID. But yeah, we do not expect this to last. Yeah, so it mainly happened because of the COVID and a lot of accidents in some polysilicon factories in China, which is driving the global supply chain for the solar PV. So in the Middle East and Africa in 2020, the added numbers, it was almost like 4 gigawatt is added only in 2020 in terms of renewable energy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a very good overview in terms of what's happening globally and how these global trends could affect the region where you do business, as well as the other way around. I mean, as I mentioned in my statement earlier, some of the largest and cheapest renewable energy projects, solar PV in particular, are found in this region. We'll go into that in more detail a bit later on. But right now, let me bring back Ahmad into the conversation. So I think Ahmad, there is a great interest in terms of the next phases of Shagaya Renewable Energy Project. Can you tell us a bit more in terms of the timeline of the procurement? Let's say I think people are interested to know when these projects. I'm not sure if you will split them into 2 projects as phase 2 or 3 or just one, but yeah. Please do let us, can you give us some updates in terms of the procurement timeline for those projects?
Well, thank you for your question, Jennifer. For the timeline, first of all, before I go with the timeline, the project it was combined 2+3 under one transaction advisor. So the transaction advisor is required to study the area, and he will have some data, whatever you name it, energy, climate, environmental, everything. And he will propose what is the optimum packages for this project. And I believe it could be several packages. It could be 5 packages for those, let's say, this big project. This is number one. For the timeline right now, we already opened a tender for the transaction advisor for the consultation companies. And we received some bidders, and we extend the closing date of bidders. It was end of June of this month, and we extend the period of time until the next month, which is end of July. And then we will receive, and we will do the evaluation, and we will see who is the winner, who's the company will win the project. And we expect with our documentation circle, it takes around 1 year from now, and then we will start our work with the transaction advisor. And we are expecting around 2025. This year, we will sign the financial close with the bidders who will win, the developers who will win the packages, or 1 package or 5 packages, whatever it is. But
sorry, just say that again, Ahmad. So there could be a 12-month period for transaction advisor to study the project and look at the project structure and the packages. And after that 12-month period, are you saying it's possible that you will start the procurement process, EOI, let's say in a year's time from today? Is that what we're saying?
From today, a year time from today, we will sign with the transaction advisor, the winner's transaction advisor, and then within 6 months after signing the agreements with the transaction advisor, we will announce about the EOI and preparing the RFP. It could takes around 6 months. So from now, I could say 1 year to announce about the EOI.
RFP.
Yeah, around 1 year.
RFP. Yeah, that would be if you can allow me to ask, isn't that quite optimistic? Or is the project so urgent in terms of the management team of MEW that is this a fast track sort of project in your view?
Okay, let's put this on. Let's make it very clear. Our target is 2030 to reach 15%, and this project, it will impact this percentage in the positive way. And as long as we finish earlier, that could be a very good sign for us. But referring what you were asking about if you are asking specifically about the 1 year from now, things could happen, but we are very optimistic because I could say everyone is supporting this idea, and this is very strategic mega project, and everyone will support it, especially if it's separated to several packages. It could have some, kind of like stability to move on without any dilemmas and problems.
Of course. Yeah. And of course, before I asked the question to Mohamed about the increasing solar panel prices, you will be bringing the project to the market at a time when solar panel prices seem to be increasing. do you think wouldn't it be I know that you have a target, which means this project is urgent and important, but in terms of the economic, in terms of the costs of the project, you think you will go ahead despite solar panel prices increasing? Ahmed?
Yes, very good question again. But as long as there is a reasonable raise of the price on the market worldwide, and the prices that was received by bidders, it's within the acceptable price, I don't think it will be a problem with us. Again, if it's reasonable, there is a reasonable raise of the price. I don't think because the entire world will face that issue.
Of course, sure. Thank you, Ahmed. Mohamed, I'd like to have your view in terms. You did mention in your opening remarks that you don't expect this spike in solar panel prices to last, that it will be temporary. So with reference to what Ahmed just said, what is an acceptable price? How much increase in prices can the market take?
So if we are looking, I will start from where Ahmed ended. If it's reasonable increase or no, I see the current market prices, it's not reasonable increase because global commodities prices increased between 30 to 40%. So I don't think this is something will fall within the reasonable envelope. But however, this is, as I mentioned, this is something temporary due to the COVID and the pandemic and the global lockdowns. And also there happened a lot of accidents happened in the factories of polysilicon in China. So this is why if a lot of people, if they are looking at the price of the solar PV, you will see it like riding a roller coasters between 2020 and 2021. However, I think with fixing these accidents, returning the factories back to full speed, also, there is a lot of pipeline, new factories adding huge capacity additions for new panel suppliers in China. I would expect by the end of 2022, prices would come at least, if not to the normal range, to a reasonable range by end of 2020 or early 2023.
Yeah. In the meantime, what's your plan? What is your strategy? I mean, you've already closed projects. You're in the middle of implementing gigawatt worth of projects across the world, including in the region. What's your strategy? Are you, especially for those that have just reached financial close or about to reach financial close, are you delaying the start of those projects?
So we have been always committed to our clients to deliver and to keep our commitment to them. So whatever we committed to our clients, we are here to deliver at whatever cost. We do whatever possible to keep our commitment and to deliver it. So we are not looking at delaying the projects. We have even delivered some projects that will be announced soon ahead of the time, during the time of pandemic. So some projects already reached COD. Ahead of the planned one during the pandemic, and although of all the global disruption in the supply chain. On the other hand, you know, as the global electricity demand during the pandemic has declined, so most of the countries have seen a decline of like 5 to 10% of the global electricity demand, and the global growth of 1.5%. So this means that the plan for electricity for the country is still not the same. So maybe some off-takers will request the delay for their benefit to shift their requirements, the electricity on time instead of having an excess capacity. So this is something we will work with the off-takers as a partners, as we always do, so that we see how we can achieve our targets and give them the required electricity and keep our commitment. So this is how we are looking at it on a case-by-case basis.
Of course. And to keep your commitment, is it a relevant question to ask, do you expect clients to share in the economic impact of the solar prices? I mean, is it a question if you can renegotiate prices or not at all?
No, not at all.
Okay.
This never on the table. whatever we
Okay.
committed, we committed.
Of course, of course. Right. Let me go. Thank you. Thanks, Mohammed. Ahmed, a quick question for you. Given, of course, the previous sort of delays in some of the IPP projects in Kuwait, of course, they are now back on track. The Al Zur North 2 and 3 and Al Kiran 1. But maybe you can address, let's say, concerns in terms of how you would be able to comply with the timeline for the procurement of the renewable energy projects in Shagaya.
As you can see, we faced some several problems with the delays and cancellations, and I believe there are lessons learned, and we learned very well from them. And I don't believe that we will have the same mistake again. For the Shigaya, as long as it's a strategic project that saves and support environment and save fuel and very economic, I believe all sectors in Kuwait will strongly support this type of projects. I don't see anything that will stand against this strategic project again, as long as it's moving on the right path right now. As a PPP project, I don't see any obstacles so far, as long as we are the only thing with the documentation circle. Some times we are taking through some communications with the different governmental institutions. That's very regular here in Kuwait, if anyone familiar with it.
Of course. Yeah, and can I ask you about the potential structure for this project? I know that the transaction advisors are working on this project, but will it be similar to the Al Zur North one, where at some point the certain amount of shares will be traded, will be offered in an IPO, or is it too early to ask that kind of question, Ahmed?
No, it's not very early. It's a right question. For Shigaya and the other conventional plants projects, it started upon law number 39/2010, the PPP or BOT law for the power stations in Kuwait, and this is the same one that was used on Zur North Phase 1. There is IPO, around 50%, 50% for citizens, and no less than 26% for foreign investors, and no more than 24% for the government sector. So the same idea, Zur North Phase 1, it was structured by 10% for governments and 50% for citizens, IPO, and 40% by consortium of private sector, like local and foreign developers who participated in the project. So same idea, almost the same percentages.
Right. Sure. In terms of, I'd like to ask about, have you seen any impact on demand? I mean, the COVID-19 pandemic. It's probably beyond your remit, but is there? Can you give us any idea at all in terms of how demand for electricity was affected by the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yes. For last year, we have done a study for the Council of Ministers, and we have noticed very something impressive results. And we have seen, as we know, that the energy was decreased due to the curfew and COVID-19 pandemic. The demand as well was decreased, and that's that has a relation with the GDP as well, that affected the economic of each country. So it was a reduction on the demand due to a curfew, specifically, to be very specific. The curfew played a very big role to make the demand go to the negative, and we were expecting, because everyone knows Ramadan time, Ramadan month. Sometimes we experience, or most of the time, we face experience after the breakfast time, during the evening time, we face some growth in the demand. So we're worried about this point. And as we said, the curfew, everyone is staying home, like a breakfast time. Everyone is staying home. So will that make the energy raise or vice versa? So because of some sectors, consumers were closed, like most of the government, some commercial, some investment sectors, several sectors were closed, that helped to go negative. And I believe this is the experience that we also referred to UK, USA, Europe, some countries around the world, and everyone faced negative due to the curfew specifically.
Of course, yeah. Well, thank you, Ahmad. And I think for water, it's the same sort of trend, where at some point there's also an increase because of the increased washing of hands and hygienic practices, among others. Now, I've got a quick question in terms of the increased intermittency that new projects, like new renewable energy projects, would require. I mean, I'll ask that question later on in terms of how are you ensuring that the grid would be able to accommodate intermittent variable renewable energy. But right now, I think it's a relevant question. If we're saying now, number one, that the increase in solar prices will not basically permanently hold back new projects, and then the other question will be relevant: how, given the huge pipeline of projects across the Middle East and North Africa region, are you confident you can attract investors to these new projects, Ahmed?
Yeah. Let me take it to the raise, that spike of the price that happened. I'm not very worried about it, because if we are talking about around a year from now to start with the transaction advisor and starting to prepare the RFP and EOI documents, everything, and the announcements, I believe we will reach the period that spike will go down back to normal. I'm not that worried about it, but as I told you, if there is any other reason or reasonable things that make a bit prices higher, it could be accepted, as long as it's reasonable again. Assuring to investors and developers, I think we have a very good experience and good project that done successfully. And I'm proud that I'm the first engineer who joined the public side to finish that project with the private sector, and it was done on time. Okay, we faced some engineering problems, some obstacles, but we solved it successfully, and we done the project on time, and that's the only thing that I can say, that I'm proud that it was done.
Of course. Yeah, thank you. Let me bring Ahmad now to the conversation. We're seeing increased competition, of course, in the renewable energy, particularly in solar PV sector. Do you expect that to remain the same, or will the pricing be less aggressive now, given the fact that this solar panel price increases, this was not the case for the past 10 years, I mean, how would it impact pricing new projects, you think?
I think on the short term, it will have some, I would say, transitional impact. So maybe for projects that is with very short timeline, for example, if a tender is being launched this year for a project to start construction next year during 2020, so we should expect some surge in prices. So it should not be at the same level of prices that we have been seeing for the last, especially 3-4 years. But again, I think for projects that with some long term that expected to start construction in 2023, for example, the prices should be in the normal range based on the expectation that the price will go back to the normal level.
Sure.
But the competition will be still tough because for sure everyone will have a look and take his own decision what they want to do. So the competition, I expect the competition will be even more tough.
Yeah, right. Well, it's been tough, I think, over the past few years. And then, yeah, in terms of the structure of projects, so I would suppose most of the solar PV projects that you've signed in the past are on a BOO model, build, own, operate. Are there projects, are there clients that tend to still want to do BOT for solar projects, or that's very difficult?
We did not see any BOT projects recently, and one reason of this is that mostly the lifetime of the solar PV modules is between 25 to 30 years. So it does not make sense to make a transfer at the end of the lifetime of the PPA, which is 25 years, because the solar PV module is already at the end of its lifetime. We have been seeing the BOT projects mainly for other technologies like the conventional power plants or the wind project because it has longer lifetime. But for the solar PV specifically, it does not make sense to be BOT.
Of course. Yeah. And in terms of technologies now, we can talk a little bit in terms of most projects now I'm seeing are using bifacial technology. Does everybody want to do that? Because number one, there's efficiencies to be made. You can gather power both on both sides of the panel. Number one, less land requirement. Is this something that will continue in the future, you think?
Yeah, if we are looking at the Middle East, specifically, so I think yes, this trend will continue as bifacial panels being used. Given one reason that most of the lands we are using in the Middle East are mainly sand, so and the bifacial is mainly driven by the albedo, which is the reflectivity of the land itself. So the reflectivity of the sand is very good, which supports the bifacial to give the gain and increase the generation. And as you said, if there is a land limitation, it helps to install more capacity within the smaller land. But if the land, for example, is agricultural, then the bifacial will not be used. So it heavily depends on the land, but mostly in Middle East, the land is sand, which is very good for bifacial. So for Middle East, yes, it will. The trend of bifacial panels will continue.
Sure. And in terms, before I go to Ahmed, in terms of smart grids and technologies related to these projects, can I ask you about if I know that the CEO of Aquapower is a strong advocate of localization, and there's talks about local assembly in Saudi Arabia of components of solar or even wind turbines. Do you think that might have helped the projects if they have implemented that earlier on? Do you think the whole market in general would be in a better position to weather this temporary spike in solar panel prices?
No, I don't think so. Because this mainly the spike is coming mainly from the raw material prices. So again, even if the assembly is being done locally in Saudi Arabia or any other country, the raw material prices is got increased. So the assembly is very small in the price of the PV modules.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Mohamed. Ahmed, over to you again. So So in some countries, even in Europe, we've seen the challenge posed by having a high level of intermittent capacity coming from wind or solar, in terms of the challenges they impose on the stability of the grid. Even Jordan, closer to home, has had to shut down some of their wheeling capacities when demand went down, because the grid cannot handle that scenario. In the case of Kuwait, again, it might again be too early, but are you making preparations now in terms of, I don't know how far Shagaya is to the substation and to where you distribute power, but is that part of the plan? Is that part of the study for I think it's part of the study for the transaction advisory package for Shagaya Renewable Energy Project?
Well, this is very important point regarding the substations and overhead lines of this facility part. As long as something inside the boundary of the plant, it's within the developer responsibility scope of work. For example, the substation 400 kV 132. This will be on the developer's responsibility. Overhead lines, it's the ministry's responsibility. So there will be another RFP and EPC contractor. They will ask for an EPC contractor, a project, an entire project for overhead lines, because we are connecting this big project. We are connecting them to 2 points, two main points. One to the up north of Kuwait, Sabbiya power plant substation, and the other one to Al Wafra, very south part of Kuwait. So it's around 160 kilometer and 140 kilometer, two overhead lines project. So that MEW will take care of it. They will prepare an RFP for EPC contractor to do that. I don't know like the details of it. This is with the transmission electrical network sector. They are taking care of this part. But they are assuring that this overhead line will finish before the financial close with the bidders.
Okay, thank you. And Ahmed, I'm also interested to ask in terms of, so there's a 15% target for renewables as part of the total energy mix in Kuwait by 2030. Is there also a target to conserve or reduce the use or consumption of energy? Is there a project? Are you planning to come up with something like that? Because again, Kuwait has one of the highest consumptions per capita of electricity and water in the region. So are there plans to implement to manage demand, basically to bring demand to lower than what it is today?
Yeah, it is a concern and very important concern for us. Some power plants, for example, within these 10 years, this decade, there is a plan to decommission some power plant to rebuild a new, cleaner power plants like Doha East and Shuaibah South power stations. Another thing, like a program that it's called SIMHA. It's energy conservation, energy and water conservation program that make a residential sector apply and save, and you get a credit from what you saved. For example, if you save 20% of your energy consumption, you take 40%, and for the water, it's up to 50%. So it's kind of like supporting the residential sector to save some energy. And another thing that's on the finishing phase right now, the third incentives, it's for the PV rooftop on the residential sector.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. I'm Ahmed. We've missed discussing that very important topic. Can you bring us up to date in terms of what's the status of these rooftop projects are in Kuwait?
It's on the final phase right now. We are finishing this. So I'm leading a committee right now with some engineers to finish this part. It's three incentives. Number one, energy conservation. Number two, water conservation, and number three, PV rooftop. So you cannot get an incentives of the PV if you install PV without saving energy. So if you save energy, you get the incentives, the third incentives of the PV. So
Okay.
right now, incentive 1 and 2 for the energy conservation and water conservation, it's done. All residential sector can apply. But the third incentives, which is PV rooftop, on the finishing phase right now.
Okay. So and when is the implementation? Is there a target implementation for when this initiative will come into effect in Kuwait?
It's within 1 year, maybe earlier than 1 year, and because we are building a mechanism to authorize manufacturer and contractors, because no one can deal with any contractor or manufacturer without our authorization or permission.
Okay.
So we only give the permission. So and the mechanism right now we are building, we are making it very simple, very easy, but yeah, it's not complicated like the one with big projects. A big project is another mechanism. So yeah, this is for the people. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. And Mohamed, a question for you, if I may. So Shuaiba, I know that you look after UAE, I think mainly, but it was an amazing feat that Shuaiba Solar IPP managed to achieve a pricing of 1.04 kilowatt per hour. Looking forward, do you think this trend can be duplicated, let's say in 2 years' time, assuming prices go back to their pre-COVID-19 level? Do you think these prices can again become the trend?
So thank you for asking this question. Yeah, as you highlighted, yeah, it's not a project that I was looking after or in my region. But I think this project with these extremely record-breaking numbers has very specific circumstances and very specific inputs that allow us to achieve such record-breaking numbers. So I don't think this price will be the trend, even if the prices come back to normal prices. I think we'll stay with the previous record-breaking that we have seen in Abu Dhabi in El Dhafra, which was 1.34.
1.35.
Yeah, 1.35 to 1.9. There is the acceptable range for the Middle East.
And in the interim, let's assume that this situation will continue for the next 12 months, hopefully less. But if it will continue over the next 12 months, given that, let's say, Abu Dhabi and Dubai, they're almost there in terms of achieving their short to medium term carbon abatement reduction objectives. So basically it will be up to the client whether they will hold back on new projects. But do you think it's fair to say that some clients might be looking at smaller sort of projects, not big bang 2 gigawatt projects in one go, which is similar to Saudi Arabia, where they've broken down projects into smaller packages? Do you think, given the urgency of having to comply with their commitments to reduce their CO2 emissions, do you think they will shift gears into smaller projects, which means the prices there will be an impact to the tariffs?
So I don't think so, because what we have seen and what the off-takers are aware about, that the bigger project you have, the better the price you can achieve. So if they want to overcome this price surge, they should be even looking at bigger projects. So increase the capacity of the projects, and then they can raise it. Like the Sudair project in Saudi Arabia, which is 1.5 gigawatt. So I think this should not be the trend, but the other way around. They should be looking at even increasing the projects, putting more capacity in one project, so that to help the developers and the suppliers and the EPC contractors to have more leverage and achieve the prices before the pandemic due to the economy of scale.
Okay. Sure. Okay, let me go into a couple of couple of questions. This is for you, Mohamed. Most of the Middle East projects have very low LCOE, but this makes me believe that the profit margin may be slim. Does Aquapower find Middle East market attractive, given that?
So thank you for the question. So yeah, indeed. So especially in 2020 and continuing to 2021, not only the developers but also the EPC contractors and suppliers have been seeing a very thin margins. This is due to the competitiveness and the disruption in the market. However, yeah, we still see the Middle East as a competitive market, and our interest, because our main vision is to support the governments and the countries and achieve their needs at the best possible and the competitive costs, not only to make margin. So the margin comes after, but our main target is to support the countries and support the society we are working with.
So the short question is yes, the Middle East market remains attractive for Aquapower.
Definitely. Yes.
Yeah. A question for Ahmad here. Would CAP still prioritize renewable energy over conventional power? Is there any update with regard to RFP for Al Zur North 2 and 3 and Al Kiran 1? Ahmad.
Okay. There is no priority between these two projects because it's two different teams are working on these two projects. They are supporting each other, okay, as a backup, but Khiran Phase 1 and Zur North 2 plus 3, these started before the Shigaya start. So it's 1 year ahead, so that they can finish earlier 1 year than Shigaya. But both of them, they have a priority because to help the increasing the generation availability because due to the raise of the demand. So both of them have the priorities.
Yes, I suppose, given also that you mentioned earlier, Ahmad, that some of the older fleet will be decommissioned at some point, so it makes sense that the both projects will remain a priority. There is a question. I think you've already answered the share that CAP would hold in the PPP projects. That would be, was that 50% for Al Zur North 1? What's the share of CAP?
Oh yeah, share was 50% for citizens, and if you go back to the law, it was clearly written, and no less than 20, no more than 24%, and no less than 26%. 24% for the government sector, and 26% for the private sector. And these two percentages can be increased and increasing and decreasing. The governmental can be decreasing less than 24, and private sector can be increasing more than 26.
Yeah, and there's another question for you, Ahmad. I think this has to do with the technologies that, I mean, it's a huge project. If you're looking at implementing eventually 4 gigawatt in Shagaya, I understand that you're looking at all options, whether with solar, hybrid, CSP, wind, and battery as well. Is that correct? Can you give us? Are there any more details you can share in terms of what route you might adopt?
Exactly. So the feasibility study that we studied for those projects, it's upon 3 technologies, PV, wind, CSP, because if you go back to the Shigaya, phase one, it consists of these three technologies plus the thermal 10 hours storage that was in Shigaya 1. So these type of technologies that we refer to, and it worked very well in this area. Plus we gave the option to the transaction advisor to propose any feasibility of other storage technologies. So we are open to the other storage technologies if it's feasible. Batteries, green hydrogen, compressed air, any type of storage technology. So we are open to that.
Okay. And another question, in terms, what is, I think I've asked this earlier, what is the reasonable price? You did mention that you will go ahead with this project contingent upon reasonable price. Like, what is reasonable for Kuwait? Is there an answer for that today?
No, I don't think it's if I said a reasonable price, so this is it could be a trick can be used or something, but
I would say no cent if you will say a reasonable.
I'm sorry, Mohamed?
Mohamed?
He will say the lowest price for sure from his view as a reasonable price.
Yeah, but
of course.
I'm not allowed to say what we accept, what we do not accept, but we go with the cheapest price within bidders competition. That's the only thing that I can say.
Of course. Yes, hydrogen, is that something you have keeping an eye on, Ahmed? Green hydrogen?
Yes. Yeah, we have we studied that issue seriously, and I think we are building soon a strategic plan for green hydrogen. That's the only thing I can talk about right now.
Are there any conversations with any of the big companies in terms of potentially building any pilot projects in Kuwait as we speak?
Yeah, there were conversations, and not just one conversation regarding the green hydrogen. But at this time, at this moment, this current time, it's I don't see there is a feasibility to go within green hydrogen.
Okay.
It's a bit expensive. But according to the studies and analysis, this green hydrogen will be decreased, the LCOS. Okay. We are very interested to see that reduction and the break even to go into the feasibility
framework. Okay.
Yes.
Right. And right now there isn't a timeline for when you will issue that or complete that strategy for hydrogen. Is there a timeline, Ahmed?
It's hard to answer this question for now.
Okay, sure. Okay, I just appreciate that.
Yeah, but everyone will know about it once it is announced, because it's with the higher level right now.
Sure. Well, it's been an interesting conversation between you two, Ahmed and Mohamed. I think we have I can give half a minute each in terms of any message you might want to say in terms of your projects to our audience.
Okay, if I want to start with this, the only thing I would say, don't miss the opportunity here. It's very attractive, and you will not regret it. That's the only thing that I can say to the audience, specifically the investors and developers. We have many opportunities, not just on the mega projects, on the small scale, medium scale, rooftops. I believe you should just dig out a bit and just ask questions about what you are interested in. You will find good opportunities, inshallah, without any obstacles.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ahmed. Mohamed, it's a difficult time for projects at this point. What do you think is the best scenario going forward?
So I would say the best scenario now is to work as we have been working always as Aquapower as a partners with everyone, with all the stakeholders. So to overcome this period of pandemic that's impacting all the world. So how we have to work on partnership with the off-takers, with the suppliers, with the EPC contractors, all to sit on one table and put hands together to pass this period and return back to the normal and keep the projects on track. To deliver the commitment to the governments and accordingly to the citizen and everyone.
Thank you, Mohamed. Well, it's been a pleasure speaking to you both. Thank you very much to our audience for joining us, and we'll see you in the next seminar. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Jenny. Thank you, Ahmad.